Hello, welcome to the Planet Premier League podcast. I'm Mark Chapman. Lots to talk about on today's podcast. We'll get Cesk's thoughts on Cole Palmer after his 4 goals for Chelsea on the weekend. Manchester United take on Aston Villa this weekend. What next for them and Erik ten Hag? Good luck trying to predict that. Plus, we'll discuss Brentford and their fast starts and the Battle of the High Lines ahead of Brighton against Tottenham. We are joined as ever by World Cup Euros and Premier League winner Cesc Fabregas, Statman Dave with all the numbers ahead of each Premier League weekend, and the former Manchester City and Real Salt Lake defender Nedum Onuoha. Although, when I joined this call, I actually thought it was Gary Neville because of Nedum's very good impression of Gary Neville. Do you want to do that for the whole class?
Yeah, I can do if you want.
Yeah, I'd love it.
You know what I mean? It's just try and enjoy football. You know what I mean? Don't complain about stuff which you weren't asked to do in your time. Just enjoy.
That's not your impression.
What's he doing around the back? What's he doing? Just get it forward. That's not too bad, I don't think. That's all right now.
Look at the smile on Cesk's face, which might be down to the impression, or might be down to Como's very good week.
No, it's definitely on Nedum expression. We don't like to get over the moon, for a couple of results. Let's just keep the feet on the ground and keep working.
Okay, right. I get that, and you can give the manager's answers elsewhere, Cesc. But this is your pod, right?
You got me. I'm practicing. I have the press conference later.
Right, but I don't know. Maybe a sense of relief. Is that a better way to describe it? To be up and running?
I don't think it's a sense of relief. It's just a little bit of satisfaction that whatever we've been working, for the last months, and it's starting to make up, to work. The pieces are starting to get together, and the team has a clear identity now, a clear style of play. Of course, we're at the beginning. I know that, but the most important, most pleasing thing to see is that I see my team the way I think about it, the way I imagine it, and I think this is also very, very important for me.
Good. Right. Well, we keep supporting from afar, and we should say it now. This is going to be your last pod with us for a while because you have to focus on your proper job rather than just. Do you know what I was going to say? Rather than just pissing about with us.
Unfortunately, it is, Mark. I'm very sad. Of course, I know that I have other priorities. Let's put it this way. But hopefully, I'll be back. You will invite me every now and then as well. I'd love to.
Well, that was what I was going to say. On the one hand, I never want to see you again regularly because that means it's going really well, right? And that's how it should be.
Thank you.
But every now and then, it would be lovely if you come back on.
100%. And I want to see how Dave is developing, because he's still hoping, to get into the stuff. So I need to see how he's doing.
Yeah, I can guarantee he'll still be here, Cesc. When you come back on, he'll still be here.
Hey, I've had some calls recently, Mark. I won't be too. Chris Wilde has been on the. No, he hasn't really.
Right, let's talk Cole Palmer. That's what I want to do first of all. But before we get the Cesc and the Nedum insight, I looked at his numbers over the weekend, Dave, after his 4 against Brighton on Saturday. And they are absolutely astonishing. If you sort of hear him every week, he scored this or he set up this. But then when you actually look at what he's done since he's gone to Chelsea and how those numbers have mounted up, it's a phenomenal start.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. He's been directly involved in 43 Premier League goals since moving to Chelsea. That's more than any Premier League player, including Erling Haaland. Only Harry Kane in Europe's top 5 leagues has been directly involved in more goals in that period. But just in terms of the vast goal scoring that he's done, 2 games he scored 4 goals. Only Sergio Aguero scored 4 goals in more games in Premier League history. He becomes the second midfielder in Premier League history to score 4 goals in 2 separate games as well, the other being Frank Lampard. But looking at his numbers just from that Brighton game, he arguably could have scored a double hat-trick and got 2 assists. He created 2 big chances for his teammates. Both of those were missed. He missed 2 chances himself, but he still scored 4 goals. He is playing at such a high level right now from a stats perspective.
I mean, at times the way Brighton defended, you might have scored against them, Dave. To be honest with you, so
I'm not sure.
No
Not
chance.
sure.
No chance. No chance. Peppers, just to
Nathan,
jump
say
in here.
something.
Yeah, please. Just to jump in. Let's have a moment for accountability, okay? Dave, Cole Palmer, yeah, good player, isn't he? Yeah, good player.
Yeah, excellent player. Look, Nathan, sometimes you get things wrong in this world.
No, go on. What have you gotten wrong?
I would like to apologise to the podcast for my early season prediction on Bruno Fernandes having a stellar campaign. In fact, he's had more shots without scoring in the Premier League than any other player this season.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I just want to say I was wrong. Cole Palmer, I apologise, and I respect your game.
No, deeper than that. So that might be podcast related, but away from the podcast, I speak with Dave quite often, and I said to him, "How about this? I reckon Cole Palmer gets more goals and assists this season than Bruno Fernandes." To which Dave looked at me like I was a crazy person. He's not even going to be playing. He's not this. He's not that. You know, he'd had that extra red United Kool-Aid back in July. Next thing, it's like every time a goal scored or an assist, I send him, the eyes emoji. It's me again. It's me again.
Does Maresca deserve credit here, Cesc, for moving him into the 10 role?
Well, I think it's his best position. I mean, when you have talented players like that, straight away you want them as much in the middle as possible to make things happen, to create space for themselves, to let the team play. But yes, I'm sure that, he's got his own style. He's got the team flowing, but especially last year, because this year we can say that things are starting to get better and better and it's maybe easier. But last year there was such a difficult moment for Chelsea. This is where I, like Dave said, respect even more what he did, because I think you made a good point, Mark, at the beginning, saying that nobody really realized. Every now and then, or Saturday after Saturday, we'd see, okay, 1 assist from Palmer, but they lost. 1 goal from Palmer, but they lost. So that nobody really, got it all together, that he was doing really, really well. And sometimes even feeling it like it was a one-man team. But if Chelsea is in Europe this year, I believe that a big percentage is because Cole Palmer's performance last season, he was outstanding. And I'm happy because these talented players, nowadays they are a little bit unprotected. They are a little bit getting away from our game. They don't have the same spaces as before. They don't have the same type of confidence from coaches, to let them be themselves, to create the spaces for themselves and make things happen the way they feel. And we are seeing this, from Palmer, and I think this is really important, not only for Chelsea but for football in general and the Premier League and England national team.
I found the whole debate over the weekend and following on from there, Nadim, about who he reminds people of really interesting, because nobody seems to quite be able to put their finger on it. And I've heard everything from Theo Walcott saying he's a bit Bergkamp-esque to a quote from Maurizio Pochettino in 2023 likening him to Angel Di Maria. By the way, Dave, that's the Angel Di Maria that's played everywhere else bar United. I don't think anybody's going to be compared to the Angel Di Maria at United. But he's quite difficult to pigeonhole, isn't he?
Yeah, he absolutely is. And to give him credit, like when he left Man City, I think myself and probably thousands of other City fans were thinking, oh, the fee, that's a good fee for him, for somebody that's not really going to be playing. So fair enough. But murmurs within the club were that this guy is actually incredibly talented. But the work that he's done since he's arrived at Chelsea has been remarkable. And from early in the season when he first went, where he's like taking penalties, like how's he taking penalties over like Raheem Sterling? How's he taking penalties over this guy, that guy? But then as he's progressed, you see what type of player he is. He's somebody that is desperate to find space. So he kind of plays like a 10. But then when he comes as a sort of wide, as a forward, he drifts inside, finds pockets. And what I like about him is probably, and I'm sure there's some stat for it potentially, but he looks for the forward pass first. He looks for a shot first. He's looking to have an attacking output whenever he can. And those players are they're few and far between, because at times there's an element of control that some teams want to see. And if he makes a mistake, he's not concerned, but the quality he has. And best of all, with all due respect to him, I feel like football is his main thing in his life. And when he talks about it, when he plays it, you see the best version of him. Some of the other stuff which comes with being a celebrity, with being as good as he is, I don't think he cares about at all. Wants to just be at home eating his, like, was it Chinese takeaway or whatever, playing FIFA and then getting out there and playing football. But he's hugely impressive. I didn't see it coming. The stuff that he's done is remarkable. And he is definitely in the debate for one of the best players in the Premier League right now, which is not something I was expecting to say at any point in his career, let alone a year and a half after leaving Man City.
Is there such a thing in modern football that you can build a team around a player still, Cesc? And if so, would you?
I think so. Yes, 100%. When someone is that special, when someone makes you see and feel that whatever happens in the team, he's a game changer. I believe so. We've seen it throughout the years with different type of players, and I think it's fair to say it could be the right thing to do, even if as coaches sometimes we kind of hate saying things like this because we want to protect the team and we want to protect the collective. But when you have someone that good, someone with such an impact on the pitch, I think the team themselves, they see that and they want Palmer to get on the ball as much as possible, because you can see 100% Nathan says he plays forward, and it is true, he makes things happen, but in a way that he makes it look so easy, which is the impressive thing in a league where it's so competitive, so physical, so fast. And when he has the ball, it feels like everything is slow. Everything becomes very, very clear in his eyes, because he sees, he's always with this body position that he's able to play any pass in any angle on the pitch. And yes, going back to your question, I think it's still possible when a player is that special to create a team around him.
So I'm not sure if this is common knowledge as such, but when he was coming through City's academy, he was a good player, but he wasn't the best player. And it came to a point where I believe just before he came in for under 16s or 17s or whatever that first stage is of coming in full time, that they were potentially going to let him go. And I think looking at sort of data, just the way he was as a person, they were looking to let him go. But apparently one of the reasons he stayed is Jason Wilcox, who was the academy director at Man City at the time, stuck his neck out and said, no, I think there's something here with this player. And now we get to see what type of player that he is. I think he came through a very good sort of City academy side. It's the side that won the Youth Cup in 2020. But I think it just shows sometimes, like, to be able to see something and be able to have the courage to sort of stick with it. Like Cole Palmer could have been lost in a system. He could have been playing something else, could have been doing something somewhere else. But now we see him, as I say, as one of the best players in the Premier League. And it is, as I say, I love it. You could argue it's down to Jason Wilcox when he was at City at that time.
But also, one other thing with that, Cesc, and we've touched on this before, and I was talking to Brian Barry Murphy on Monday night on 5 Live on the Monday Night Club, who was in charge of City's development squad for the last 3 years. Is also a head coach and manager in his own right. And he highlighted the importance of luck in all of this as well. And he actually spoke about Rico Lewis in this situation, whereby Rico Lewis was trained with the first team because Kyle Walker might have been missing. Kyle Walker couldn't go on the US tour to America, couldn't go on the preseason tour to the USA. They took Rico Lewis. He impressed Guardiola, and all of a sudden, he's more integrated and there's a bit more of a vacancy. So when you are breaking through as a youngster, one of the things you need is a vacancy ahead of you, don't you?
100%. I mean, I think all the players in the world, or at least 99% of them, we can all say that there was one point in this certain moment that we were a bit lucky. My luck, for example, was to find Arsene Wenger in my life at such a young age. And otherwise I would have been at the Barcelona Academy, with thousands of kids that were maybe better than me, and probably I would have never got the opportunity. So we all get this chance that either you take it or you don't. And it's just impressive, because we all have our own story. And I'm sure, Palmer in this case I remember him when I did the Champions League final 2 years ago. He was just doing keepy uppies with Foden because they were on the bench, they were warming up, and the way they were doing things technically, I was like, oh my god, I forgot that this is even exists. This type of player, so talented. They couldn't let the ball go off on the floor. So I think it's just great to see players like this making such an impact at such a young age, and also a surprise. Maybe it's difficult also for Pep, to identify this type of talents when you have so much talent already in the first team, and you see week in week out the best players in the world. Then him coming to Chelsea in a very difficult moment when nobody really is making an impact, or there is maybe not so much talent at the time, him coming there and just doing a couple of things that are different than the rest, made it so obvious that he was a very good player, and everyone started to go and looking out for him. He got the confidence, he started playing, he got better and better, and maybe this kind of click made him even better than what he was supposed to be. But yeah, I believe in luck, but I also believe in determination and hard work, and making this luck that you get the chance, good for taking your opportunity.
Yeah, hindsight's so 2020, isn't it? So how could you let this talent leave Man City? Well, let's go back to when he was at City in the season when they won the treble. At right wing, you had Bernardo Silva, who is one of City's best ever Premier League players. In the 10, you had Kevin De Bruyne. In the midfield, you had Rodri and you had Gundogan. So you're saying that
You had
it's
Mahrez at this
obvious.
time as well, right?
And
If I'm
Mahrez
not
on the right as
mistaken.
well.
Yeah.
Mahrez, who was a sub, and I think Foden at the time was kind of on that right side as well. So you're telling me that the right thing to do at that point would have been, forget all these other guys. Just let Cole Palmer start. It's tricky, but again, to just finish this off, we talk about good luck and fortune and being able to take your chance. And this is one for you, Dave. I was told this yesterday, so this might be wrong. And if it's wrong, I hold my hands up. But 23.5% of all the goals in the Premier League this last weekend were scored by people who played for Man City in the Youth Cup in 2020. But none of those players scored the goals for Man City, because we're talking about Morgan Rogers, we're talking about Liam Delap, we're talking about Cole Palmer, we're talking about Taylor Howard-Bellis. So this is a team who, academy-wise, they've been top of their age group in that year, but they've not been able to do it at City. But still, they've got an opportunity elsewhere, and now they're thriving in the Premier League literally 4 years on. So I think it just goes to show, like, opportunities aren't necessarily the ones which you would expect, but when you get them, you get a chance to be who you are.
So that's 8 out. So to do that percentage, Dave, that's 8 out of how many Premier League goals scored this weekend?
That's a really good question, Mark. You'll have to come back to me in 2
Right.
seconds.
Okay. Very quickly, because I don't know what else can be said on this, and a lot has been said already by everybody on this podcast. Dave, Manchester United, what do you want to say?
Here we go. It's what we've been waiting for.
It's a really tough moment for Manchester United. But delving into, looking at...
Please don't tell me you're going to look at some statistics to give a positive, are you?
No, I think this is the overall problem. Last season, Man United broke records for conceding the most goals in the Champions League group stages. In 22 games in the Premier League, the opposition created an expected goals of over 2 against Manchester United. For comparison, Arsenal in that same period, that happened to them 5 times. You look at this season, teams that have conceded more goals at home in the Premier League than Manchester United, just Wolves, West Ham and Everton. The tactical trend last season of United conceding loads of chances has re-emerged. The expected goals against is about 1.8. That was where it was last season. From an offensive perspective, again, something that Man United should be as a goal-scoring team and a team that can play out from the back. Goals have been a massive issue at home. No team in the Premier League scored fewer goals than Manchester United. But if you look at teams that are well set up and teams that have got, a decent press, Erik ten Hag's lost 3 or more times against 6 Premier League teams. Manchester City, Brighton, Liverpool, Spurs, Newcastle and Arsenal. All teams that play a high press. If you can't play out from the back, how are you ever going to get to a point to consistently create chances in the final third? There is so much wrong with the basic things at the moment with Erik ten Hag's Manchester United that he has to change. And one of the things that we frequently talk about this podcast, Cesc, you're a big fan of the zonal system. That, for me, is fundamentally one of the worst things that Manchester United don't do. And that's why they get played through so much.
Cesc looks interested throughout the whole course of Dave's answer. Nedum looks smug.
No, listen, it's not smug, because I was just
What is it then? Please?
No, I was just trying to figure out what Dave was going to say, because with Dave, there's always like the BS meter. At some point, it flicks up. So I'm always listening to every word he's saying so that I can think about what I want to say next. But he's been reasonable there. I think that's the Statman Dave answer. And then when you just talk to Dave off air, he'll just say, "This crap." You know what I mean? He'll say, "That was absolutely rubbish. This is no good. Get him out. Get them out. It's a disgrace. This is Man United we're talking about."
Oh, you got into your Gary Neville impression again.
Oh, was that him again? Oh, God,
Yeah.
sorry. Excuse me.
Right.
I'm doing too much.
Now, a reminder, obviously, that you can contact us via WhatsApp. The number +44 330 678 1078. All the details are on our website. The email as well, planetpremierleague@bbc.co.uk for thoughts and questions. We'll talk Brentford next. But before we do, just listen to this voice note.
ISS Chappers, Nathan. I'm Jake from Liverpool, loving the podcast. Got a little story for you. When I was younger, didn't really know what to do with my hair, so ended up taking a picture of Cesc in the barbers and asking for it to be cut like that. It wasn't quite long enough at the time, but I thought I might never be as good a footballer as him, but at least I'll look like him while playing football with my mates, with Fabregas on the back of my shirt. Just a quick question for Cesc and Nathan. Whose haircut is the most iconic or most memorable of players you've played with? And Chappers, whose is your favourite footballer's haircut? Cheers.
Wow. That's a very, very... Now, the thing is, Cesc, so when I heard that voice note, I thought I'll just look at some of Cesc's haircuts, and obviously it immediately takes you to the incredible mullet that he had at Arsenal in the early years.
Yeah, I think that was on my second year. If I'm not mistaken, I was only 17. And funny enough, I answered the question straight away with this answer and what I'm going to say. I copied this haircut. It was obviously not quite the same. I know it didn't come out, the same. But it was Fernando Torres. He went to play the European Championship in 2004. I don't know if you guys remember. It was like this. He cut these sides and he let this a little bit shorter at the top, and he put extensions very long on at the back of the hair. And I tried to do the same. And yeah, no, it didn't come out quite the same, but that was probably at that time, I'm talking about 20 years ago, obviously, an iconic haircut for me and my generation. And yeah, I tried to copy it and it didn't go that well.
No, your version of it appears actually on an article that I discovered, most bewildering haircuts.
There you go. That's your answer.
Well, I did something similar in the 90s. I took a I tried to do Beckham's curtains kind of look in the 90s, thinking I'd sort of look like him, but ended up looking more like Sean Ryder out of the Happy Mondays than I did David Beckham. Nathan?
Well, to be fair, when I think of haircuts, I do think about the sort of wave of energy that came when Beckham was around, because everyone wanted to do it. Oh, what haircuts you got this time? Oh, he's dyed it blonde, and all of a sudden you see loads of like copycat adults in blonde. Was that you as well?
I did go frosted tips for a while. Yeah,
that's it's one of them. I think overall my haircuts have been reasonable, but there was a time when I was just transitioning from the academy to first team, and I did have braids, and that was kind of a bit of an ode to JJ Okocha. But
nice.
It lasted about 4 weeks, and I had to take them out because the family pressure was quite high. So so off they went. I think that's it for me.
Right, let's go back to the football then. Let's talk about Brentford next and their quick start. So 3 Premier League games, 3 consecutive matches. They have scored in the first 60 seconds. Wissa at Manchester City, and then Mbeumo in the next 2 against Tottenham and West Ham, which were not far off. Very similar strikes from Mbeumo in those 2. One went in the top left, one went in the top right. Has anybody done fast starts like Brentford, Dave?
No, this is a Premier League record. 3 consecutive games is a Premier League record. No team has scored 4 goals in the first minute of a Premier League game in history. So Brentford could do that this season. But just in terms of the times on those, Mark, 22 seconds against Man City, 23 against Tottenham, and 37 against West Ham United. They're really catching teams cold.
Do you coach kickoffs, Cesc?
Yeah, we do. Especially depending against what type of structures or high pressure teams or low blocks, yes, we do analyze a little bit with the set pieces guys, and we try to identify if there are moments where we can have quick starts by hitting it longer or by creating a little solution pretending to play back and attracting them and then play a little bit longer, creating some movements, some patterns. Yes, it haven't worked out at the moment, but I remember last year we hit the post in the first, I think, 15 seconds of the game thanks to that. So yeah, it's not common or easy, to make things happen because everyone, when you start the game, everyone is in structure. The whole team is behind the ball. So it's a very interesting one. But I had the privilege, last year when I was starting coaching with the Primavera, we went to play against Brentford, and I did have the chance to talk a little bit, to Thomas,
Yeah.
and it's very interesting because
He's a lovely man, isn't he?
yeah,
He is a
lovely
lovely
man,
man.
lovely man, and everything, studied. He's got a clear picture in his head about everything he wants to do, the high press, the restarts. It's something for me interesting as well, because at that time when I was 1 month as a coach, I just had retired basically, and talking about restarts made me realize that it was something that, is it that deep, because I always had tactics and things in my head, but going into restarts and little details like that, he was so deep about it. I loved it, and he opened my mind, to look about and think about something else.
I would say, in terms of restarts and just like little details within football, obviously the conversation around set pieces feels like it's quite big at the moment because of the way that Arsenal are doing it. But I remember during my career when there was like an emphasis on throw-ins,
Yeah.
and lots of people are like, throw-ins, they don't matter. But when you play against a team who are good at throw-ins, it's not nice, And I'm not talking like the Roy Delap into the back post. I'm talking about, we've got them in the corner, everyone go press. Oh, no, wait a minute. We're running back towards our goal because they've got a 1v1 on the far side. The ability to do that. And I think for quick goals, I think it was this calendar year. Do you remember Florian Wirtz scoring against Germany after 7 seconds? And that at the time was the quickest international goal, I think, in Europe.
There were two that night, weren't there?
Exactly, because then Baumgartner did it after 6 seconds for Austria. And there is something, in my opinion, to be said about football where maybe it's a bit like boxing, also like combat sports, where people kind of feel their way in sometimes. But when all of a sudden it's like, bang, they're here, you're almost stunned, like, oh my God, like what's going on? People don't know where they are. Like for that Baumgartner goal, for the Wirtz goal, players just don't know where to look. Someone's running at you full speed, and you've probably not even like laced your boots up properly. It's like, oh my God, this is so real. This is so real. And there is something to be said, I believe, about taking it to the opposition straight away. And in terms of Brentford, some of the goals that they've scored obviously require a bit of good fortune, like the goal against Man City that I think Vissa scored. There's a miscommunication between John Stones and Edison, and it drops to him. But the fact is, Vissa's still in the box after just those seconds, and Brentford will throw it into you. They will find bodies in those areas, and they'll take a chance. It might not work out. It's probably not worked out for most of the games that we've seen. But when it does, it just feels electric. And for the opposition and the crowd, like, you're stunned, because some of these goals, maybe the crowd aren't even seeing, because, why would you focus in on the first 20 seconds of a game normally?
I think from a perspective of Brentford, what was so interesting when they got promoted to the Premier League, I remember watching them, was number one, David Raya's kicking is unbelievable. Like, statistically, it's ridiculous. And we've seen that at Arsenal translate with him hitting Kai Havertz before it was Tony. But the thing that was interesting was kind of like their horizontal spacing of their 3-5-2 when they're either playing direct from goal kicks or they've got a free kick deep. They're so tight with that 5 across the 2 wing backs and the 3 central midfielders. And if you go back and watch these goals against those 3 teams that we spoke about, they're all clipped back to the goalkeeper or a centre back. They then directly play a long ball out wide, and then they're so narrow when they're competing for the second ball, but then they're really direct, crosses into the box straight away. And I think the interesting side is 2 of the goals, they're basically clipping the ball to Aya. Aya's a 2-metre tall centre back that's playing as a wing back. So with him high, it's a massive mismatch, and then they win the second ball, and then they're so direct. But it is kind of like we're saying, each of the games, you look at the players on the opposition's team, and they're like, what's just happened? We've just been caught really, out of shape, out of position here. But Brentford have done it consistently, which again means it's this tactical trend that's really interesting.
Their horizontal spacing.
Yeah, I was. That's. Do you see that little meter I was saying before, the
Yeah.
BS meter? As soon as you said it, I was like, oh god. I was going to explain this to the
Uh,
audience.
How would you describe a
To
team's?
be honest, I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't describe it.
What?
I'll be completely transparent. I know what you're saying, but for a podcast, I don't know if they understand. Like you kind of. I think at times you see the game kind of like how people see the Matrix and so on. But then there are other people within the Matrix just living their life like, what is this guy talking about? But it's
Do you
right,
work,
Dave. We still love you, mate.
do you work on your horizontal spacing, Cesc?
No, I'm waiting for Dave to come here and teach me a little bit about it.
There's a vacancy at Como for a horizontal spacing
You can always,
coach.
you can
We've
always
got there.
improve your game, Mark.
We've got there.
Mhm.
Just a final one on that. Do you think, just by what you see around the Premier League, but maybe around Europe as well, I do feel like the sort of direct kickoff is back. You
Yeah,
know,
it
knock
is
it
back.
back and go.
Yeah, this year we haven't used it, this one, for example, but I remember last year when we were maybe not at the level that I thought that we should have, and we always were a little bit late or lazy getting into games for some reason. So when I started to see that first ball, we hit it long, try to get the second ball, etc., etc., and we start putting pressure, and I think this is something that a lot of maybe the smaller teams they try to achieve, with the first kick of the game to show the bigger teams that okay, we're here for a fight, and from the first kick of the game we are there, to press you and to be on your pitch. But naturally, especially when Brentford, for example, they do that, a lot of big clubs, you mentioned there that they do it against, because big players, the bigger they are, when the ball goes out naturally in their heads is a bit of a okay, let's just take it easy. Instead, these smaller teams that they need to use other type of tactics, this is what they work on during weeks. And it's, for example, we play a game here on the hardest day of the week that every player, each team, they have 3 seconds to get the ball and make the throw in. So we are ready to make the throw in quickly in case the other team is sleeping, and we are preventing to go to sleep when the other team is getting a throw in. So it's a little bit of waking up, the mind, and the more you do it in trainings, then it unconsciously comes out in games, But 100%, this is here to stay, and we will see more and more of that.
I was going to say there's so many different ways to play football, but at times the best way is just the most effective way. And I think there is an element of that battle that matters. And I know it's the Premier League podcast, but when I was at QPR, we were once playing at home against Millwall, and for 30 minutes we couldn't get out of our half. And it wasn't because we were playing a low block or they were passing it around us. It's that every ball was so well contested that it was going out for a throw in. It was if they had a free kick, it's coming straight back in, and they test you to a point to where you're completely disrupted. Any idea you thought about how you wanted to play this game has gone out the window because the ball's gone out of play and thinking, oh, for goodness sake, oh no, the ball's already thrown back in. Now you adjust them, so they've won a corner. It's what I would say to sort of, as I say, put a bow on it. Even though we see some teams play really fantastic football, I know United won the last FA Cup, but the one before, the goal from Ilkay Gundogan after however many seconds, is a long ball that gets up. Somebody can, I think De Bruyne contests a header with someone and Gundogan just whacks it in. And that's probably City's best ever team scoring a goal, which would probably be drawn up 30 years ago by a team who maybe people wouldn't want to cover.
You do know, Nadem, that the ball going out for a throw-in or contested in a free kick was basically my pub career for 25 years, don't you?
Listen,
that's virtually all that happened.
Well, listen, it's a form of football and it leads to goals. It certainly can work. It certainly can work.
Before we go and say our emotional goodbyes at the end of this podcast, and Dave makes one last desperate attempt to get a job. The late game on Sunday sees Tottenham go to Brighton. Is there every chance that this ends 7-7, Nathan?
Do you know? I really hope it does. Obviously, producer Joe wouldn't want that, but yeah, the lines that say these two teams play are, you could say, on the aggressive side. But then I overall, even though I was a defender, I don't mind it because it's for a reason. I think it allows the team to be able to apply more pressure further up the field. And when you can have those turnovers, there's great potential to score more goals because the goals it's just there. So yes, I think it'll be hectic, but then also they have goalkeepers who are prepared to come off their line. And this is the way that, say, modern football is kind of going with some teams. And I'm here for it because some people say, oh, not being entertained enough. And then when they get entertained, it's like, I'm entertained a bit too much. Please just park the bus and keep it there.
And neither of them are going to change, Cesc, are they?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I am a fan of high lines, 100%, but I'm not a big fan when the ball is not covered to just not drop. I'm sorry. For me, yes, some teams will not have the capacity to understand it, but once they catch you and they understand your game, I think you will have a lot of problems, especially against the big teams. I see Barcelona, for example, now as well. They're doing the same exact thing. And when it's not your day, you could get smashed 4-2, like it happened, the last weekend. So, listen, every coach has their own ideas, philosophy, style of play, call it whatever you want. And if the players understand it and the players are...
Your point there, sorry, is exactly what Hertzler has said a little bit, which is it's not just about the defenders with this high line. The rest of the team have got to put pressure on the ball, and that's as much the issue. Tottenham got done at Newcastle in a very similar way. Played a high line, but there was no pressure on the ball for the ball to be played over the top.
Why do you want a high line if you are not pressuring the ball? Well, this is what I meant before. The high line is to be able to put pressure and to stay in their pitch as much as possible. But obviously, if someone is running at you and you are not running back, you only need the good timing of the striker and the good timing of the little pass, the chip behind your back line, and the guy will be 1-on-1 against your goalkeeper. This is why, where is the balance? I like to have a mixed, in this case. I like to work it well. I like to be sure that the players understand each phase, when the ball is covered, when the ball is going backwards, when the ball is uncovered, when someone is running at you, you need to drop off, in my opinion.
David, I saw a graphic of somebody looking forward to this game with average team positions, which had both goalkeepers in their own penalty areas, and then the other 20 players in the middle of the pitch, either side of the halfway line, no deeper than the centre circle on both sides.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like that. When you're looking at the high lines in the Premier League, Man City have got the highest line, obviously dominate possession in the opponent's half at 53 metres from their goal. And then Brighton's 51 metres and Spurs is 50 metres, obviously 1, 2, 3 in the Premier League. But if you're looking at the amount of expected goals that those teams have contested, conceded and created this season, they're both around 19. So we're probably going to get a very good game of football.
Dave, sorry, just one question. When you say the highest line, you mean in general when they have the ball and when they don't have the ball, or just high line when they don't have the ball?
I think this is calculated with when you're defending.
Hang on, Dave. This could be your job interview here. He's asked you a direct question on the.
I'm just curious. I saw it's just for.
Yeah, but he needs the numbers here, Cesc.
He's rattled. He's rattled. He doesn't know.
He's quickly googling.
I think it's over.
This
overall,
I believe it's
right?
both phases. I imagine. Yeah,
both.
overall.
Okay, then.
It's also got the opposition's defensive line as well when you're playing against them, showing that difference as well.
I'm not Chappers. He's exposed himself there. He's you know what I mean? Like, he's dropped the data and it says, I think it's this.
I'm sure. I use the word I think. No, I am sure it's that.
Yeah,
big opportunity. That open goal was there.
Fumbled it at the 1 yard line. You know what I mean? Last shot for Cesc as well. Never.
Look, we got fourth down here, guys. We've got to make a play.
Yeah.
A reminder that you can get in touch with us on WhatsApp +44 330 678 1078. All the details are on the website. The email planetpremierleague@bbc.co.uk. Cesc, I think we can all say that we've loved having you with us and the insight and the fun as well. And that we just wish you all the very best for the rest of this season and beyond with Como.
Thank you so much, guys. As I said, it's been a pleasure. I met new people like you, new great guys, new friends, basically. We still keep the group chat, I hope. We can debate some football. We can, Nathan can have their little questions. Dave can have the little slides that I love. Mark, you should, sometimes get in there as well. if you don't mind. We'd appreciate that. Get into the mix.
Yeah, that's what we need, Cesc.
But no, Rice, thank you so much, really.
I was partly hoping, Cesc, you say, I'll now leave the WhatsApp group. I was thinking, brilliant, that gives me an excuse to
An
go
excuse
with
to
you.
go.
There we are.
No chance.
But no, seriously, honestly, it's been great, and we would love to have you back on from time to time.
100%.
That would be really important. So
It will be my pleasure.
that's it from this week. Nadim, Dave, I'll see you next week. Cesc, we wish you all the very best, and a reminder that you can listen to this podcast on BBC Sounds as well as on your favourite podcast provider. Please do subscribe, download, send us your thoughts and your questions, and until next time, this has been an IMG production for BBC Sounds. How do I send a message to this WhatsApp group?
Shut up, Chaffers.
Good one, Chaffers. Just take it off mute first, and then it'll work from there.